Loki, the notorious mischief maker, squirmed uncomfortably in Thor's iron grip, his body twisting and turning as he felt the raw strength of the thunder god bearing down upon him. The events that had led to this dire situation began the previous night, when the rest of the gods had retired to their chambers, blissfully unaware of what was about to unfold. Loki, ever the troublemaker, had quietly tiptoed through the halls of Asgard, his cunning mind scheming up a plan for a new prank. His target this time was none other than Thor's beloved wife, Sif, whose radiant golden hair was the pride of the realm. Her locks were famous throughout the 9 worlds, cascading like a waterfall of pure sunlight, shimmering with an ethereal glow that captivated all who saw her. In Loki's warped sense of humor, the idea of cutting off Sif's hair had seemed like the perfect joke, a harmless prank that would surely get a rise out of Thor. The thought of Thor's face contorted in frustration and Sif's vain attempts to cover her shorn scalp brought a twisted smile to Loki's lips. So, under the cover of darkness, Loki crept into Sif's chamber and, with a swift stroke of his knife, heard the soft snip of hair falling to the ground. He left Sif asleep, unaware of the humiliation that awaited her at dawn. However, when the morning light revealed Sif's bald head, the mirth Loki had expected was nowhere to be found. Thor's fury was immediate and overwhelming. His rage echoed through the halls of Asgard, and it wasn't long before he caught up to Loki, whose laughter quickly faded when he realized the gravity of his actions. Thor's powerful hand clamped around Loki's wrist, his fingers like iron shackles, and the trickster god found himself faced with the very real prospect of having every bone in his body shattered by the god of thunder. Thor's eyes blazed with fury, and his booming voice left no room for negotiation. Loki had to fix what he had done, or face a wrath unlike anything he had ever known. Panic set in, and Loki's quicksilver mind raced for a solution. He needed to think of some way to repair the damage, some way to restore Sif's hair to its former glory. But who could craft something so perfect, so resplendent, that it would replace her matchless golden hair? Her hair was not just beautiful, it was legendary, golden like a field of summer wheat swaying in the breeze, catching the sunlight in such a way that it seemed almost otherworldly. There was only one group Loki could think of capable of such a feat: the dwarves, the legendary smiths who dwelled deep within the mountains. Their craftsmanship was unparalleled, and they could forge wonders that defied imagination. Without wasting another moment, Loki set off at once, heading for the dwarves' subterranean realm, hidden far beneath the surface of the earth. Even as he traveled, his devious mind was already scheming, plotting how he could manipulate the dwarves to do his bidding without them realizing they were being used. Loki knew the dwarves were a proud and competitive race, always seeking to outdo one another in feats of craftsmanship, and so he devised a plan that would pit 2 families of master smiths against each other, ensuring they would both give their all to create the finest treasures imaginable. First, Loki paid a visit to the sons of Ivaldi, a family of master craftsmen renowned throughout the realms for their skill in forging magical artifacts. He approached them with a cunning lie, telling them that their rivals, a pair of brothers named Brock and Eitri, had been boasting that they were the greatest smiths in all the worlds. According to Loki, Brock and Eitri had issued a challenge, claiming they could create gifts for the gods that would surpass anything the sons of Ivaldi could make. The rules, as Loki explained, were simple. Each family of dwarves was to craft 3 gifts for the gods, including a new head of golden hair for Sif. The sons of Ivaldi, ever eager to prove their superiority, accepted the challenge without hesitation, confident that they could best their rivals. Next, Loki made his way to Brock and Eitri, repeating the same story, but with a twist. This time he told the brothers that it was the sons of Ivaldi who had issued the challenge, claiming that they were the superior craftsmen and that they could forge gifts that would put Brock and Eitri to shame. Like their rivals, Brock and Eitri were filled with a competitive fire and agreed to the challenge. However, they were not so easily deceived by Loki's smooth words. Sensing that Loki had ulterior motives, Brock insisted on adding a condition to the agreement. If they won the contest, Loki would forfeit his own head to them. The cunning trickster, always confident in his ability to wriggle out of any situation, agreed to the terms, though inwardly he knew he would have to find some way to avoid such a dire fate. With the terms set, both sets of dwarves began their work in earnest. The sons of Ivaldi immediately set to forging their gifts, their hammers ringing out as they shaped metal with unparalleled skill. Meanwhile, Atri prepared to work his forge and set his brother Brock to man the bellows, instructing him not to stop for any reason, as even the slightest pause would ruin the treasures they were creating. The first item they worked on was a piece of pigskin, which Atri placed into the forge. As the fire roared, a strange black fly buzzed into the room and landed on Brock's hand. The fly stung him, but Brock, determined not to fail, did not flinch, continuing to pump the bellows with steady hands. Next, Atri placed a block of gold into the furnace. Once again, the fly appeared, this time biting Brock on the neck. The pain was sharp, but still, Brock remained steadfast, refusing to let go of the bellows even for a moment. Finally, Atri placed a piece of iron into the forge. The black fly returned once more, but this time it landed on Brock's eyelid, biting down with all its strength. The pain was unbearable, and for just a split second, Brock's hand slipped from the bellows. Though it was only a momentary lapse, it was enough to affect the final treasure. The item had not stayed in the fire long enough, and its form was incomplete. Loki, who had been the fly all along, reappeared in his normal form. Overjoyed at the dwarves' apparent failure, he accompanied them to Asgard, eager to see the sons of Ivaldi win the contest and thus avoid losing his head. When the time came to present the gifts to the gods, Loki was the first to step forward, showing off the treasures forged by the sons of Ivaldi. First, he presented the new golden hair, which was placed upon Sif's head. The hair was so perfectly crafted that it not only restored her former beauty, but enhanced it, the golden strands flowing down her back in a radiant cascade that shimmered with even greater brilliance than before. Next, Loki revealed a magnificent spear, crafted for Odin, the Allfather. The spear, named Mjölnir, was said to be so powerful that it could pierce through anything and would always hit its mark. Finally, Loki presented a small piece of cloth, which, when unfolded, transformed into a mighty ship built for Freyr, the god of the harvest. This ship, named Skidbladnir, was large enough to carry all the gods, yet could be folded up and placed in a pocket when not in use. Then it was Brock's turn to present the treasures made by him and his brother. First, for Freyr, they had forged a golden bristled boar named Gullinbursti, whose glowing mane would light up the night as it pulled Freyr's chariot across the sky faster than any mount. Next, for Odin, they presented a golden arm ring called Draupnir, which would magically produce 8 identical rings on every 9th night, a symbol of endless wealth and prosperity. Finally, Brock revealed the last treasure, a hammer named Mjölnir, made for Thor. Its handle was short, a clear defect, and Loki couldn't hide his smirk at the sight. However, Brock quickly explained the hammer's extraordinary powers. Mjölnir would never shatter, no matter how hard it struck. It would never miss its target, and once thrown, it would always return to Thor's hand. Despite the flaw of the short handle, the gods unanimously agreed that Mjölnir was the finest of all the gifts, for it would become the most powerful weapon in Asgard, a defense against the giants and any who threatened the realm. Realizing that Brock and Atri had won the contest, Loki tried to flee, but Thor was quicker, grabbing hold of him before he could escape. Yet, ever the trickster, Loki pointed out that while the dwarves had won the right to his head, they had no claim over his neck, and therefore could not cut it. The gods, though annoyed by Loki's cleverness, had to admit that he was technically correct. Still, Brock was not about to let Loki go unpunished. Taking his brother's awl, he pierced Loki's lips and sewed them shut, ensuring that the trickster god could no longer spread his deceitful words. And so, Loki, for a time, was silenced, though the gods couldn't help but appreciate the irony that it was Loki's scheming that had brought them such fine treasures, especially the mighty Mjölnir, which would become Thor's most iconic weapon. Though Loki's mouth was sealed, his mind continued to plot, for mischief was in his nature, and he knew that this would not be the last time he tangled with the gods.